Hi, Tim.
All right, Justina,
Yeah.
this is going to be fun, huh?
I know. I was reminding you backstage that in 2018, I also moderated a fireside chat with you in Amsterdam, and there's still a video somewhere on YouTube where I kind of sat behind you awkwardly while you just stepped forward and had a Bitcoin rap.
I do remember this. Oh, that was fun.
Do you have a rap for us?
No, but I do remember the chorus. Let's see. It's a Bitcoin hustle.
Yes.
Bitcoin hustle. With a Bitcoin hustle. Going, let's see, hang on. Something about flex your crypto muscle. And actually, it feels like you can today. Those statistics are fantastic. I still thought we were sort of radicals in our views of thinking that that Bitcoin was going to transform the world economy, and it looks like we're moving in that direction right now. And you asked about, or they asked about the $250,000 prediction. I don't know why anybody's asking me for a prediction, because the last time I well, I got it. I nailed it in 2014. I said by 2014, Bitcoin was about $190. And by 2017, I predicted on air and Fox Business that Bitcoin would hit 10,000 by 2017, and it hit it on the day. It was weird. And then I thought, oh, I had hubris. It was like, oh, yeah, I can predict anything. And so then Bitcoin had dropped to 4,000, and I said, okay, 250,000 by 2022. So people keep asking. People are very kind. They're saying, do you still predict 250,000? The date has already passed. But yeah, oh, absolutely. We'll blow through 250,000. No problem.
What's your new timeline for that?
Well, that's my problem. I didn't realize we'd have these speed bumps along the way. We had, the SEC being overbearing, or the SPF thing, or whatever. The speed bumps have slowed down the progress. But clearly, look, Bitcoin's a better currency. And the earlier prediction of 1 million might be underestimating it, because that's just taking the gold part, because there's 100 trillion plus of currency moving around the world. And if Bitcoin becomes a currency, it's a much bigger deal. And so I think, I got to take you back. My father, when I was about 7 years old, came to me and he goes, here's $1 million, and it was $1 million bill. And I went, whoa, yeah, it's $1 million Confederate dollars. And I went, Confederate, what can I do with this? And he goes, nothing. And I went, my heart sank. I thought, oh, God, nothing. And he said, yeah, well, when the Union won the war, nobody wanted Confederate money anymore. And so they printed tons of it, saying, here's $1 million Confederate dollars, can I have $1 of Union dollars? The reason I bring that up is I have this concern that 5-10 years from now, there's going to be a moment when I can buy my food, clothing, shelter, Uber, whatever, Amazon, all in Bitcoin. I can pay my taxes in Bitcoin in most countries. And there will be a moment where I say, I don't want to use any more fiat. Why would I ever hold on to any currency that was tied to politics and drops in value by about 10% every year? And there will be this moment, and it'll sort of converge. And you know how social media spreads the word quickly. It'll be a craze trying to climb to the banks and try to pull those dollars or euros or whatever out of the bank, trying to get them out and put them into something people will accept, which would be Bitcoin. And that is a crazy day in the future that it was good, 3/4 of you are prepared for. And if you don't have that, I think you will be very concerned on that day that we all learn that and it'll be like a turning point, this weird turning point where we just go, oh no, the retailers won't take dollars anymore, and it'll say, at first it'll be we accept Bitcoin, and then it'll be we only accept Bitcoin, or maybe there will be another cryptocurrency. But look, it's better currency. It's much more effective, moves anywhere around the world. So many great things about it.
But if we kind of look at Bitcoin's trajectory, I mean, people want to hold it, they want to keep it, they want to wait for it to kind of rise in value to $1 million or whatever. So kind of has that thesis changed in the sense that it seems like people don't want to spend it, they just want to keep it. And people are spending, within the crypto world, stable coins instead, for instance.
Right, I think that's a somewhat temporary phenomenon because they see. Here, there's another kind of fun story. I invested in about 8 companies, all in Bitcoin, and I said, okay, here's 300 Bitcoin. Bitcoin was $180. Here's 300 Bitcoin for 4% of your company. And they go off, and some sell it, and some hold on a little bit, and some whatever, they go back. And the big winner made me 10 times on my dollars. And here's how he made me 10 times on my dollars. He took the 300 Bitcoin, and 5 years later, he gave back 15 Bitcoin. So I was down 20 times in Bitcoin, but I was up 10 times in dollars. So this is a phenomenon that where people just aren't understanding that, hey, your dollars are getting worth less and less and less, and your Bitcoin's getting worth more and more and more. And as a result, there is going to be this hodling of Bitcoin. People are going to hold on to it, and then they're going to be in a happy position of being able to spend it or invest it or do whatever when people actually, when there's that flushing sound where nobody wants dollars anymore. And I think it's coming. When Silicon Valley Bank went out of business, there was a huge panic because when we had, I don't know, maybe 1/3 of our companies only banked with Silicon Valley Bank. I got all these phone calls, and in most cases I was magnanimous, and I said, okay, we'll give you some more money to make your payroll, but it's going to be expensive, and it's only one payroll that we're covering, because whether we were on the board or they were the CEO, they're responsible for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, of payroll, no matter what. And if they can't get to the money in the banks, they have to personally come up with that payroll. So we, in most cases, we kind of said, okay, well, we'll give you enough to cover payroll, but it's really going to cost you. That was on Thursday when Silicon Valley Bank went out of business. Monday, the government bailed them out, and people were going, phew, everything's fine, we can make payroll. And so I told all my companies, you've got to have a treasury department now. You have to start thinking about this. And I said, put 1/3 of your money in a big bank. And they went, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Put 1/3 of your money in a small bank, and they go, what? Why in a small bank? I said, because the US government can bail out a small bank. And then put 1/3 of your money in Bitcoin, and they said, why? Well, because if the domino effect happens and all the banks are in trouble, you're going to have the money to make your payrolls and and it'll be in Bitcoin. And so that is pretty much the overall policy among the Draper venture companies.
Yeah, we've seen an interesting trend in like the past year where sometimes it almost feels like Wall Street is co-opting crypto, right? Now, if you're lazy and you don't want to learn, you can just buy a Bitcoin ETF, and there are a lot of hedge funds getting into this space. I mean, does that disappoint you that maybe crypto is just going to be part of the mainstream financial industry?
If you don't want to learn, I'm thinking, if you can plug in a color TV, you can buy Bitcoin. It's not that hard. You can put Bitcoin on a ledger, and they're making it easier. So, when people say, I don't understand it, I think they're not really, I think it's denial. Look, it's better, easier. Decentralization is magic. It's fantastic that we don't have in the U.S. we got this central bank, and that central bank is keeps printing currency for the politicians, and when they print that currency, we suffer because our dollars get to be worth less. Centralization relies on a single entity. That's why I'm a Bitcoiner, and I like some of the other currencies, the Tezos and some of the others, because they're decentralized. But a lot of these currencies are very centralized, and I'm not a big fan because it's the same thing. Now, at least they're digital. And people ask me about, the digital dollar. Let me clue you in. The digital dollar will go the same way as the dollar does. So keep that in mind. Good. Let's talk about something else.
Like, other than crypto, or?
No, yeah, go ahead. It's your job. Do your thing.
I mean, from a venture capital perspective, what are the most exciting use cases in the crypto world that you do want to put your money in right now?
Well, what's really great is that Bitcoin's making it easier and easier for the consumer to buy, hold, spend, invest. And once the entire financial system can be replicated, it will all move over. So that's what I was thinking. That's what I was kind of getting to. And in venture capital, you've got this great opportunity to invest in those companies that are, Bitcoin's a little like Microsoft was in the internet times, or in the software times. Microsoft created a platform. There was this platform. They said, oh, go ahead, experiment on the platform. And then somebody created a spreadsheet, and Microsoft watched as Lotus 1, 2, 3 became this big deal. And then they watched as WordPerfect became a really big deal, word processing. And so Microsoft said, well, we're going to be an operating system, and then we're going to have Excel and Word, and we're going to replace these two. But otherwise, you guys continue to develop interesting things on the platform. I think the same thing's happening now in crypto. In Bitcoin, Bitcoin created this platform. A lot of other currencies, Ethereum and others, created a platform that was easier to program to. And so all the experiments have been happening. And there have been all sorts of little weird, strange things that have happened on those platforms. But we now know what the important ones were. NFTs. Now we have ordinals on Bitcoin. Smart contracts. Now smart contracts are being ported over to Bitcoin. A number of, so there are, I don't know, maybe 4 base ETFs or any financial systems for whatever, they're all being ported to Bitcoin. That's a venture opportunity because the changes are happening. And so I'm excited about that. There are point token companies that are very interesting. where there's a real use and a real need for them. I don't buy and sell tokens, but I invest in entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs go off and build big businesses. Sometimes they issue tokens. I make sure that when they issue those tokens that there's a real reason for those tokens to exist in the long-term future. Yeah, I mean, the other things we look for at Draper are, so it's anything decentralized. So anything decentralized would be a way of using AI for medicine, a way of using DAOs for new forms of governance, a way of using, so we're doing a lot of, investing in a lot of companies that are trying to decentralize the world. And then, of course, you know, there are great markets in space and transportation, and in AI is going to basically transform a whole swath of different industries. And so this is really, I don't think there's been a more exciting time to be a venture capitalist.
Right. I mean, kind of speaking of, you know, the state of the VC industry, if we look at kind of the macro perspective, we're finally in this higher rates for longer regime. How has that affected venture capital?
Oh, it's interesting. I always do it at a pretty early stage, and then I'll double down on the winners. But what happened during 2018, 2019 was there were these mega super monster funds, and entrepreneurs would come to them and say, hey, you know, I need $7 million for growth. And they'd say, well, we like you, but here's $100 million, and you guys grow faster and do everything better and all that. And that was not a good way to be an investor. And so investing in mega venture funds was probably not a good strategy. And so having higher interest rates actually, as they say, when the wave comes in, everybody thinks you're a genius, and when the wave goes out, everybody knows who's not wearing a bathing suit. And so the waves come back out, and that tends to be somewhat cyclical because governments spend money at random times. If they overspend, you get inflation. If you get inflation, the interest rates go up, and they have to hold those rates up, or you get hyperinflation, which you really don't want. And that's what you had in Argentina until you got this genius who's just entered the fray. The president of Argentina, if you haven't seen it, he spoke to the people in Davos, and he gave one of the greatest speeches I think I've ever heard. And he's completely transforming Argentina, and I have great hopes for Argentina now, as well as El Salvador and any other country who sets very clear rules and then sets their people free and trusts them. Trust, think about this. This is wild. What if we had 100% trust in the world? Imagine all of the things, all the friction that would go away. I mean, so much of our economy is built on trying to verify or to check on people. But those countries that trust tend to be the ones that grow super fast. So, you know, South Korea versus North Korea. North Korea, command and control government. They tell everybody what to do, and they have to do it. It's socialist, communist, whatever you call it. And that experiment's been going on for 70 years. South Korea, they trust their people. They set them free. They build a capitalistic society, open borders, all that. That 70-year experiment's been now, I think, has pretty much come to a conclusion that socialism does not work. The average South Korean makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes. The average South Korean is 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. The average South Korean woman is taller than the average North Korean man. It is absolutely a very pure experiment that has really come out. And so really, the more a government sets very clear ground rules, trusts its people, and sets them free. So all these little regulations, they are trouble. So anybody who works in government, no more regulations. Just make very clear laws and let her rip and see what happens. And if somebody starts impinging on other people's worlds, then go ahead and do something. Don't over-anticipate all the horrible things that could happen with AI. Let's go explore AI. Don't worry about all the horrible things that could happen if people are selling drugs with, cryptocurrencies or whatever. Let's just see what happens. Let's let it rip. And if you do that, I think the global economy could grow at, instead of 1%, it could grow at 8%.
I think for a lot of people, maybe taking the other view, they would raise the example of FTX, for instance, and kind of wonder, why didn't we have more regulation to prevent that? Was that disappointing to you? What was your reaction to that tobacco, and what lessons should we take from that?
Well, we turned that guy down twice, so I don't know. I thought I was an idiot because
why did you turn him down?
Well, I said this is a commodity business. Anybody can do it. Why would anybody want a centralized token that is totally controlled by one guy that built, and somehow there was this crazy enthusiasm for him, and they built this huge thing, and I was going, I still don't get it, but I missed something. Yeah, use your own brain. Don't just listen to what everybody else is telling you to do. I think that, that would be good advice for people. Whatever I say, don't listen to this.
On the state of VC, we're not seeing a lot of IPOs these days, not a lot of exits. Is the life cycle of venture just a lot longer now, or are we finally going to start seeing some IPOs come back?
No, that's also cyclical with the interest rates. That's all tied to our central banks, the system that is currently in existence. I think we'll have much, on a Bitcoin economy, we'd have a much smoother operation. We wouldn't have these whipsaws where banks go under and people are panicked. And I think we're gonna see a lot more long-term growth and a long-term thinking when it becomes a Bitcoin economy.
Right. I think we can open the floor to some questions. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Does anyone have anything for Tim?
Sorry. Apologies for the beginning question. I'm a bit of a noob in the industry, but I made my first crypto investments in October. You just mentioned companies that issue tokens, and you would ensure that they issue tokens for good reasons. Do you have an example of a good reason?
Yeah, a lot of them are making it so that it's a more fluid market. It's all for liquidity, of course. Some are just tokens that, for instance, Proppy is a property token, and sure, it's for the good of their business, but it also is going to ultimately represent title and ownership of real estate properties. The big question I usually have as an investor is there a token that after the initial hype or whatever, people are going to have a real reason to buy? So that's what it's really got to be. And they're generally, I guess the SEC's define them as utility tokens, but they generally have a real use. Now, that doesn't mean that they will generally be used as a currency. I think currency just has to have broad appeal, and it's got to be recognized by everybody. And so that's where I think Bitcoin is much more valuable. But there's a place in the economy for United miles. But you're not going to be able to go to Starbucks and say, hey, will you take my United miles for a coffee?